For state government, the mission for several years now has been to make Oklahoma more business-friendly. The center point of that effort is changing the state's workers' compensation system. This year, lawmakers are looking at hundreds of pages of new law that would totally change how workers' compensation is done in Oklahoma. While this is priority number one, there is growing opposition on both sides of the aisle over the bill that makes those changes.
Roy Carter lives in Clinton, Oklahoma. At the age of 24, he was working in the Panhandle as an electrician's mate when his boss asked him to spend some time working with a line crew on high-voltage electric lines. He had been doing that work for about a week when a 7,800-volt electric line fell on him. He was burned over 80% of his body, and he lost both of his arms. He is now 40 years old and living off of workers' compensation and Social Security disability.
Well, I've been trying to make the best of it. You know, you have down days to where it's like, oh man, why did this happen to me? But for the majority of it, it's like, I didn't want to be that way.
Roy's two prosthetic arms are activated by the nerve endings in what's left of his own arms, so he can move the hands by flexing his biceps and other muscles.
And that turns it one way, and the tricep muscle turns it the other way. Then I flick them both at the same time, and it goes to opening and closing. Then I do them both again at the same time, and it goes around the elbow. Okay. And it's just flexing the muscles that do it.
Roy's income is just over $1,000 a month.
Then scraping by would be exaggerating.
Yeah, because you're actually under minimum wage, aren't you?
Yes. How'd
that work? I mean, what does this work out to? What you get in benefits is based upon what your pay was 16 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, and it will never go up.
It is Roy's story and thousands of other Oklahomans that make what state lawmakers are doing now so important. A total rewrite of the workers' compensation laws. This is Senate Bill 1062, 260 pages worth of new state law. It passed the Senate 34-12. But when the bill got to the House Judiciary Committee, the fast track the measure had been on slowed to a crawl, and this is the result. The House version is now 316 pages long, and the House Judiciary Committee has just a few days to act on it before it is dead for the session. Bob Burke is a prolific author, member of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and a noted workers' compensation attorney. He was part of the team that helped craft last year's workers' comp reforms. He offered changes to the House on the Senate bill this year, and some of those made it into the new version.
The House did correct 6 glaring errors, for example, such as leaving out, the Senate bill had left out covering volunteer firemen or law enforcement officers or emergency personnel, had left out enforcement of child support liens.
Overall, Burke says the House version is better, just not by much.
About 90% of the ideas or the concepts and provisions of the Senate-passed bill are contained in the House substitute.
And Burke says both bills ensure there will be court fights and businesses will face new lawsuits.
In fact, constitutional lawyers and trial lawyers will be fully employed for the next 10 years if this bill passes.
Attorney Burke says the House version did remove some provisions that were likely to face constitutional challenge, but he says there are many that still remain.
Yeah, there were 23 before, now I only count 14. There's one provision that's already been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. This bill says that a chiropractor cannot write a medical report. Well, that was tried in the 2011 law, and the Supreme Court within months said, you can't do that, it's special legislation.
The politics of changing the workers' compensation system are intense. Members of both the Republican and Democratic Party are voicing opposition. Speaking on the OETA People's Business Program, Senator Patrick Anderson, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which saw the bill first, says his concern is the way the bill proposes to reduce workers' compensation rates for businesses.
All the cost savings that are in this bill are taken off the backs of the injured worker. And I think that's a huge issue. And there's absolutely nothing that addresses the medical reimbursement rates, which I think is the huge cost driver for our workers' comp system right now.
House Minority Leader Representative Scott Inman, a member of the House Judiciary Committee where the bill currently resides, says the politics are so intense it's likely SB 1062 will change some more.
Because it is such a desire for the Senate to have another workers' compensation bill done this year, they may be inclined to compromise a little more than what they otherwise would want to, just to get a bill done and onto the governor's desk this year.
Darren Gantz is president of the Tulsa County Republican Men's Club and executive director of Oklahomans for Liberty. He is openly opposing the workers' comp bill as anti-conservative, unconstitutional, and un-Republican.
It would have took the person's right to their Seventh Amendment right of a fair trial by a jury in a civil case to federal court. That limits the ability of a local civil case to be taken up and arbitrated.
And his organization, along with others, have been working to spread the word to voters that major changes are coming to workers' compensation, changes they may not like.
The cost over a 25-year period, which is what they're talking about running a dual system, would not just expand the size of government, but it would actually cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $500 million more dollars than we're currently spending now.
And that's a figure others agree with.
We at any time have approximately 100,000 claims open. So there's going to have to be a court forever. And over just 20 years, I think that alone cost the taxpayers of this state an extra $200 million.
The bill also would allow big companies to opt out of the state's workers' compensation system and become self-insured. That provision has even divided the business community.
The business community who cannot take advantage of this self-insurance or opt-out provision, they're concerned. They don't support it because they understand that if you take all of those folks out, allow the big business folks to step out of it, rates are going to go up for Main Street businesses.
At the heart of the issues involving workers' compensation is people who have been hurt on the job.
People's lives are forever altered, and we need to have compassion for the least of these who may not have the ability to fight for themselves.
The House bill leaves in cuts of around 25% in benefit coverage for nearly all on-the-job injuries.
And the most onerous provision in relation to permanent disability is that the law says, and I think it's as unconstitutional as anything I've ever read, is that no matter how bad you're hurt, if you go back to work, then you don't get any permanent disability.
And Attorney Bob Burke believes there are some provisions of the House and Senate bills that are, in his words, mean-spirited.
If an employee misses 2 doctor's appointments, even though they got a leg cut off, they don't have to provide him any more benefits in the future. If they don't go to a doctor that the commission says you've got to go to a doctor, even though they're sick, they don't do that in 30 days, they can't go for 30 days, they get no further benefits under the system. Now, that's unconstitutional, it's impractical, it's mean.
Roy Carter is a fiercely independent man who wants to take care of himself.
I lived by myself up until about 3 years ago. And nobody took care of me. I did all my own dishes, did all my laundry, did all my cleaning, everything in my apartment by myself.
After refusing to apply for food stamps for most of a decade, Roy says he swallowed his pride and did what he had to stay alive and take care of his young son.
You know, I was injured, I was hurt. That's the reason why that's the reason why I'm receiving the workman's comp, you know? To the other, like, going and getting food stamps and assistance with housing and stuff like that, that's different.
The House Judiciary Committee is expected to vote on their version of Senate Bill 1062 in a few days. If it passes there, it heads to the full House for a vote and debate that will likely be as intense as the politics behind the scenes of reforming workers' compensation in Oklahoma.